In this episode, I sat down with Tony Watson, or as he's known in wrestling, Tricky Micky Mavis. I love that name still. We had a weird connection the whole time, so it's going to seem like there's these awkward pauses, but it's just one of us waiting for the other person to see what they said. It was a weird connection. I'm not real sure why. So we definitely got to get him back and do a second episode where we talk more. But here is Tony Watson or Tricky Micky Mavis. Enjoy.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on.
Uh, this is Tony Watson, for those of you who don't know. He's kind of became oddly popular in the wrestling scene lately for a joke that spread all around the wrestling community. So,
Yeah.
how did that affect your Twitter followers and stuff like that? Did you end up with a decent amount of followers after that?
I kind of thought I would because I don't know if you remember Ricardo Rodriguez from the WWE, but he actually retweeted it, and like I thought like a bunch of people were gonna follow me based on that. I only gained like 10 followers maybe, but I had a just a boatload of people arguing uh in the comments for some reason. I don't really know like how that sparked an argument, but Twitter was just going crazy for some reason.
I saw it spread around Facebook more. I was happy that you got credit for it because I know a lot of the time people will put their own Twitter and make it look like they said it. I was happy that every time I
Yeah.
saw it spread, it at least had your Twitter handle and stuff
Well,
on it.
the posts on Instagram weren't like that. They cut my handle out completely. They just posted it as their own. So I got tagged in a couple of those, which was frustrating. But a lot of people also like copied it and just posted it as a status too, which like I called out like 3 or 4 people for doing that, and they said they didn't know who I was, and I was like, come on, you know where you got that joke from, like whatever. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
been
I have a dude on Facebook that I call him out all the time for just copying people's tweets and posting them as his Facebook status.
yeah, that bugs me. Like it bugs me a lot more now that I do comedy because uh like the a big thing about being a comedian is originality, and I just feel like stealing jokes is just like so lowbrow. Like anybody can do it and then get credit for being funny, which really bugs me. I don't know.
Yeah, I get it. There's a real popular Joe Rogan calling out Carlos Mencia. It's kind of basically, I say that as the moment that Joe Rogan ended Carlos Mencia's career, but
Yeah,
kind of since then
for
it's been
sure.
more of a topic. It wasn't really a big topic before that, I don't think.
Nah, because I think that's when it kind of got brought to the limelight was because Joe's like pretty big in the comedy community. So I guess like if he has an issue with you, then there must be some legitimacy behind what he's saying. So uh, plus, I'm sure a lot of people that heard that, like when he went off on him, were just kind of sitting there like, I've been waiting years to just go up and say that to that guy, and Joe just fucking did it. And yeah, maybe that's all it took too, was just somebody to actually go up to him and like call him out on it for him to just disappear, you know?
Yeah. I'm going to use this as a transition here. Speaking of Joe Rogan, you actually met a friend of his, Tony Hinchcliffe. You got to do Kills Tony show. It was actually
Yeah.
pulled from the bucket. How was that?
Um, that's pretty sweet. I've gone to 5 or 6 of them now, and that was the fourth one I've been to. Uh, I traveled to Milwaukee from Ohio. Uh, I think Philadelphia, and then that one was in Fort Wayne, Indiana, which was the closest one to my house. And there were two
Okay.
shows that day, and I didn't get on the first one, which I really wish I would have, because like uh, Todd Barry was the special guest for that episode. There was no guest for the second episode. Uh, I don't know. I would have liked to got on that one a little bit more. There was more crowd for the second show just because it was a late show. The other one was like in the afternoon, and there was like no one there. But yeah, I'm really not the biggest fan of the set that I did, just because like I feel like I got on that show when I was too early in comedy, and I feel like I'm much better than that performance now. You know what I mean? Like I was 10 months in comedy when I got on that show, and
I saw this thing on the news recently about this high school teacher who got caught fucking her students. And I don't know what you guys think when you hear about this stuff, but I always have the same thoughts, which is, where were these students when I was a teacher?
I mean, it wasn't that good of a joke, but it was the best that I had back then. I think, I don't know. I had only done that joke 3 times up to that point, so it really wasn't worked out or anything. But as far as the album goes, that was just we've been doing these like basement comedy shows in a town that's like an hour north of me. That's where I started doing comedy, was in just some dude's basement. And so we've been having like 5 or 6 people come over every Friday, and we would just do like quarantine comedy basically. And so I have 2 sets from there, 2 weeks back to back, that were like 25 minutes apiece, that I just edited together to make an album out of.
Good news is, my dad doesn't do heroin anymore. Woo! Hold on, though. It's because he does meth now. Woo! There you go. That's the right reaction. I found it out the hard way, too. As I sold it to him. And I almost didn't, but I mean, who can say no to such an innocent, toothless smile like that? Not this guy. That's why I'm his favorite son. Well, that, and his other one got aborted. So.
Where's the album available at? Where can people find the album?
It's just a free album on YouTube. I didn't think it was like I kind of put it out there more as just like hey, check out all this material that I've been doing. Not so much like look how funny I am type of
Move,
thing.
honestly. I give you credit. That's a risky move.
Well, it's more so just because it's they were both quarantine sets, so that was kind of the theme of the whole thing. It was just like a you know, like I was just kind of telling jokes to my friends, really, in the album, and I realized it's kind of a cop out, but like I don't really the reaction isn't really what I cared about on the album. It's more so just the material that I had been working on, and just the fact that like I think the editing was more so what I was focused on, because it's a 35-minute album, but it's 2 separate sets, and as long as nobody can really tell that it was 2 sets like morphed together, that was all I really cared about when I uploaded it. But yeah, it's available for free on YouTube. I thought about putting it on Spotify, maybe.
I wouldn't have told me.
Say what?
I said I wouldn't have guessed that it was 2 put together if you wouldn't have just told me that.
Right. That's what a lot of people said too. But there's a funny, like, if you go back and like listen to it, there's one very distinct laugh in the background, and he wasn't there for both sets. He was only there for the one. So it really just sounds like he just hates most of the album, like, because he doesn't laugh at a lot of the jokes because he wasn't there. Yeah, so that's a funny little.
There's just certain jokes that guy hates for some reason.
Right. I feel like I should point that out to people though, so that way they know like that guy wasn't there for the whole album, and he just like it's not like he hated it or whatever. But yeah.
Of all the comedy shows you've done so far, what would you say was your favorite show, or do you have like 2 or 3 maybe even?
Yeah, I mean, the man, that's tough. That's very tough because I've gotten to do a lot of like really really cool things, but most of them were just open mics. Like a lot of the cooler shows I've done were just normal, like at a bar type of place.
Okay.
There's this one place in Bowling Green. It's a big like college bar called Grumpy Dave's, and I think the first couple times I started going there were really good. I thought they were fun, but I kind of like fell out of that place for a little bit, and I came back one night randomly, and I got thrown up to do 5 minutes, and it was just like a couple bits that I've been working on for a few months that they hadn't seen there yet, and I just went up there and like I felt like a lot of people there didn't take too kindly to me anymore, and like I just went up there that night and just like fucking crushed it in front of all of them, and I just felt really good about it.
Yeah.
That was like a couple months ago, yeah. That definitely stands out to me as one of my favorites. The first time I ever hosted a show was like a charity event for one of my friends in Michigan. So it was my first out of state set and my first hosting set, and it was in front of like maybe 250 people. So that was pretty crazy. But that was
Okay.
another yeah
Yeah.
that was a lot of people. But the only thing I regret about that is like the same thing I regret about Kill Tony was like it kind of happened for me. I was only doing comedy for 6 months when that happened, and I had like no good material back then. So
Wow.
yeah, I basically just ate a big fat one on that night. I kind of came back around when it came to like the hosting duties, but for the most part, that was kind of a loss for me. But it was pretty cool to look back and see that I got to perform comedy at 6 months in front of that many people in a completely different state. That was pretty cool for me. So those two really stick out. I'm sure there will be some, especially after this quarantine is over, that are gonna be really awesome, because I'll get to venture out a lot more. I feel like I was really starting to pick up steam with everything as far as like wrestling and comedy before this whole virus thing came about, and then it just kind of got stopped short. So that's why it's such a bummer. But
Yeah. All right. I got one question that only somebody like you can answer. So I did stand up. I tried doing open mics for a long time, for about like 8 months. I did them in Pittsburgh for a while, then down in Morgantown. What do you think is harder to deal with? A dead crowd during a match or bombing?
I think bombing because like when
I
you're
think that that's the
bombing,
worst thing that could possibly happen to you. Like, I've never
yeah,
felt worse about myself than bombing.
it's one of the most excruciating things, especially if it's taking forever. You know what I mean? Because like I've done 20 minutes, 25 minutes in front of people before, and the whole thing bombed, and that was just awful. But I've also had wrestling
Oh,
matches that were completely quiet as well, and I just I don't know, because like when it comes to wrestling, you gotta have a partner in there with you to kind of help. And I guess at the end of the day, if the match falls flat, it's kind of on both of you a little bit, not just a one person type of thing. But if you're doing comedy and you have a bad set, it's no one's fault but your own, really. So that kind of sucks to be bombing like
yeah, that's all I knew.
this, right? Because like when you're having if you're having a bad match, then you can just be like, man, they didn't like the match. I don't really know what we could have did different. But like if you're bombing, then you're just thinking like, man, they don't like me specifically. Like I don't know what to do. And then, like
Yeah.
it sucks. It sucks when you bomb because like especially if you're uh like if you're actually good at comedy, it sucks to bomb in front of a new crowd because their first impression of you is now this guy's just not funny, which isn't necessarily true. It's just that
Yeah.
specific night you were just off. But as far as like wrestling goes, in that scenario, I think this is the thing. A lot of people were kind of upset about with WrestleMania was that the crowd, like not having a crowd, kind of took away from it. And I don't know if that's necessarily true because I think a good wrestling match is a good wrestling match at the end of the day, I think. You don't really need an audience. Like with comedy, if you tell it, because a lot of these people now are doing these like online comedy sets, which are weird because when you tell a punchline, you need like immediate feedback from an audience, right? Otherwise, it's weird. But with wrestling, you could kind of, you know, get away with not having an audience react. I guess it's still kind of weird. You know, it takes a lot of the electricity of the match away, in my opinion. But you're still watching a wrestling match. You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't, if it were boxing or like MMA or something, you wouldn't care if there's not a crowd. You know, you're still watching two guys fight at the end of the day. So
Yeah, it's still a sport.
right. It is kind of hard though, difficult when there's a full crowd of people who were hot before you guys started and then you guys kind of killed them. Like that's happened to me before and that sucks. That sucks really bad.
Yeah. Yeah. That does
That's
suck.
happened a few times.
All right, you keep bringing up quarantine. Last question, then I'll let you go. Is you followed it down any weird rabbit holes while you're on quarantine? I find myself watching like old Chris Hansen videos over and over again.
That's so weird. That's very
Rabbit
weird,
holes
actually.
you find yourself in.
Yeah, that's one of the rabbit holes I've fallen down many a times. I don't know why, but it's just like it's not supposed to be funny, like the show, but like I don't know what it is about Chris just reading the transcripts to the guy, and then the guy just like he just has to sit there and listen to everything he said read back to him. But in
It's
Chris
weird that
Hansen's,
somebody panic that bad.
yeah, I don't know. He's just his stupid like he has like such a ventriloquist dummy type demeanor. It's just funny to hear him read that shit back to them. I don't know. But no, I like.
And then sometimes he'll hit him with one-liners where you're like, "Does Chris Hansen do stand-up?"
He knows what he's doing. He knows where his bread is buttered. Like he's
Yeah.
he knew this internet meme thing would catch on in a couple of years, and so he's like, okay, I'm gonna really try to get some sound bites in this fucking thing. But yeah, I don't know. That's ridiculous. I like watching like I have actually been watching like the like amateur pedophile stings that they do, where it's just like a couple teenagers and a camera, and then they like meet people at Walmart. Like it's very unsettling.
Some of those feel so set up though.
Yeah, dude, they're bad. I don't know. I watched one the other day where they called the cops on the guy, and the cop literally let the guy go and told the kids to stop because of the coronavirus. So that guy got away with it. It was very, I don't know. That made me laugh so hard. Yeah, they just let him go because they're like, yeah, this is not necessary, guys. And they kept telling the guy to get out of there. I don't know. But I've also fallen down like a stolen valor rabbit hole. I've been watching a lot of those videos for some reason. Those are just so satisfying.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It goes
then,
back
like,
to that like
courtroom.
calling out joke thieves kind of thing where you're
Yeah, dude, exactly. I wish I've been watching like courtroom videos too. That's another one of my
okay.
whole things. Yeah, I don't know
I
why.
might have to
but
look
that's
into
just-
that.
There's like courtroom outbursts where like people get life sentences and then they just freak out. I don't know why it's so funny, but it just is.
It makes you feel good about yourself because you're not getting life.
Right, but like you're like, at first I'm like, man, that's a long time, and then they tell you like why are they going to prison, and then I'm like, fuck them, yeah, that's not long enough.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah, but it's funny because like a lot of them,
I mean, wait.
a lot of them will like, they'll be like, we won't give you the death penalty, but instead we'll just sentence you to 105 years. Like, I don't get how that's not still kind of the death penalty a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, they're gonna die in prison. I don't know.
Well, see, I have I think that if you get a sentence and you die during your sentence and you didn't live it, your child should have to come in and finish your prison.
Man, that's not a good inheritance.
No, you'd keep your shit. You keep your shit in line now.
Yeah. Or if you're gonna
Hey,
be
make sure you
criminal-
get your plugs online out. Where all can we find you at?
Oh, I have a Twitter and Instagram handle at twat_comedy. It's a pretty sweet handle. Not a lot of people like it as much as I do.
I love that handle.
And then you can just find me on Facebook at Tony Watson. I also have a YouTube. I have two separate YouTubes. One of them is just Tony Watson Comedy. That's where all my comedy videos are. My album is also available there. It's called Filthy Idiot. It's 35 minutes. Don't have to pay for it. And then my wrestling YouTube doesn't get as much action, but that is just if you type in Tricky Micky Mavis, it's the first one that pops up. I'm pretty sure. I don't know what the actual channel is called. But,
There'll be a link
yeah.
for everything in the description of this video, also. So
Okay, sweet. That's perfect. Yeah.
yeah, Tony, I want to thank you for being here with me, and you have a good night, man. Enjoy the rest of your quarantine.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on.